Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the Wolfman 907, and today I wanted to talk about foreigners interested in moving to Brazil. One of the biggest things that you're going to have to consider is employment, and it's not easy. And I wanted to break down here and now a checklist, things that you need to consider before you make the plunge and move to another country. First things first, when it comes to Brazil, if you're thinking about moving here and immediately looking for employment, here is one barrier that you're immediately going to have to overcome. And that is, it's going to be difficult for you to obtain employment here because in order for you to work here, you have to be a citizen. For starters, Brazilians themselves have problems seeking and obtaining employment here because employment is scarce. Simply because of the large population, there's simply not enough jobs that exist for all of the folks that live here. So, one, it's going to be difficult to find work just because of that. But two, okay, if you're not a citizen, one of the ways for a foreigner to overcome that hurdle is if you're married to a Brazilian. Because if you're married, then you can get work authorization at a fairly decent timetable. It's going to be even more difficult because you're not going to have a they're not going to give you preferential treatment. Once you get that work authorization, whereas now you're married to a Brazilian, or you're here on a visa or what have you. The second thing you're going to have to deal with is finding employment, and you have to be fluent in Portuguese. Hardly anyone speaks English in Brazil, and for the few that do speak English, it's broken English. It's not perfect fluent English. So it's going to be impossible to find employment in speaking in your native tongue. You're going to have to be fluent in Portuguese. One of the things I would recommend is it's not that difficult to pick up. I know some may argue on that, and that's fine. There's plenty of applications right now that are free that you can find on your cell phones that teach language. One of them is Duolingo, which I'm a fan of. I would recommend for anyone to look into that if you're seriously interested in learning Portuguese or any other language. But the bottom line is you're going to have to be fluent in Portuguese. Now let's skip to the next hurdle. Some of the best jobs that are available in Brazil are government jobs. And what's sad about that is if you're not a citizen of Brazil, you're automatically disqualified. So what does that mean? It's simple. If you're a foreigner and you're thinking about moving to Brazil, if you're contemplating on the notion, well, you're going to have to just immediately disregard any type of government job because that position is not available for you. It is only available to citizens of Brazil. Okay? The next thing you're going to have to consider is your educational background. Now, here's the thing where I learned this one the hard way. Okay? Any type of education that you may have or certification, any type of qualifications you possess, okay? It all needs to be validated over here. And that is a long, lengthy process. Things that you're accustomed to, especially back in America, as far as the process to get things done. I know for me, I was accustomed to things getting done fairly quickly because of the systems that are put in place in the United States. Well, guess what? That does not exist over here. That is something that you're going to have to deal with and not allow your frustrations and your anger to get the better of you. The process is a long time. So, getting to the point, if you want to get any of your accreditations, any of your certifications, anything in your history, if you want it validated, it's going to take a long time. One, you're going to have to find someone who's willing to translate any of your documentation from the respected language to Portuguese. And once it's translated, then it needs to get notarized, and it has to get notarized by someone locally here in Brazil. Okay? I know for me, in my personal experience, I try to do it the quick way where I translated everything myself. I had it notarized by friends back in the United States, and everything was on the up and up and valid. And when I submitted everything over here, it was immediately kicked back. It was immediately rejected because it wasn't notarized by someone here in Brazil, and it wasn't translated by someone here in Brazil. So regardless of how factual everything may have been and how everything was done in accordance, none of that stuff is honored here in Brazil. And all of that stuff will take several days, if not weeks, to get completed. So you need to get your any type of certifications you have, any type of educational background history that you have, it all has to be validated. The other thing is even your professional credentials need to be revalidated. When I say all your history needs to be validated, whether it's your educational background, your professional background, places where you've worked, I'm talking about even personal. Your birth certificate needs to get validated. If you have a marriage license, it needs to be validated. Everything needs to be validated. And it takes time. And quite frankly, it's a big turnoff to a lot of folks contemplating and debating on whether they want to move to an international country. The other thing to consider is salary, which is a big deal. The salaries in Brazil, they all range. But when you're comparing it apples to apples to, say, the United States, some people may get offended by the range of salary here in Brazil. The bottom line is the salaries they're not on a high paying wage scale. Even some of your best jobs here compared to the United States, at best I would compare it to getting paid $21,000 in America. You're not going to get paid well, and that's just me spitballing it, throwing a random number out there. So if you're thinking apples to apples, I'll be able to find a job in Brazil where I'm getting paid 100K and the equivalent of 100K in American dollars, it's not happening. It is not happening. One thing that I realized out here, even certain professions that pay well in America, one that immediately comes to my mind is an attorney. For the most part, if you're an attorney, you're going to get paid a decent salary. Even if you're not a top tier attorney, you could be at the bottom tier. You're still going to get a decent salary where you can live off of it. Here in Brazil, I have met and encountered many attorneys who barely have anything to eat. It's apples and oranges out here. So as far as the pay scale is concerned, you're not going to get paid a lot of money. Even the best jobs here in Brazil, at best, if you're going to compare it, it's about $21,000 American dollars. So that is a factor you're going to have to consider. However, I will use the term, you do not have home field advantage here. You're playing on the other team's field. And because of that, even though there is a fondness to America, it doesn't mean that you're going to get special treatment here. Brazilians will always get the job before you. And people will be polite with you here. They'll smile at you. They'll say, hey, we'll try. We'll do our best for you. They'll use the word yes, but in fact, they're baby facing you, okay? They are baby facing you, and really it's because they don't want to be rude. Because in their world, it's considered rude to say no. So they don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to offend you. But even though when everyone's saying yes, the real answer is no. And you're going to have to learn to be able to differentiate between the two. Now, for those of you who are thinking, okay, well, I want to move to an international country and I'll have a work visa, so no problem. I'll be able to overcome that. None of the things that you said apply to me. Okay, well, here's the other thing that you're going to have to consider with that. Just because you have a work visa, okay, doesn't mean that you're automatically going to get a job. Because here's the kicker. If you have a work visa, by law in Brazil, that respected company has to pay you a higher wage than what it would normally pay one of the locals. So just think about that for a minute. Just think about that. If a company has to pay you a higher wage than what it would normally pay the average Joe locally in the street, do you think they're actually going to do that? Every smart company is always thinking about the bottom line. What is that bottom dollar? It's always about looking out for the best interests of the company and getting the most profit that they can. Hence why they have their own business. So if they have to pay someone a higher dollar because they're forced to, it's not going to sit well. The odds are you won't get the job. All right? Now, here's where you will find possible work. Just like in America, where illegals find employment, they get jobs off the books. You'll be able to get a job off the books over here. That is a more realistic opportunity that would manifest itself. Okay? Informal work. Work that's not recorded on your cartera de trabajo. It's basically a passport type document where all of your employment data is recorded. So you will have that informal work where it's not recorded on your card. You're basically in simple layman's terms, you're getting paid off the books. And if you're getting paid off the books, that also means you're not getting any medical coverage, hence why it's off the books. So you'll be able to get a job possibly like that. That exists. But outside of that, it's going to be very difficult. So you need to consider all of these things because it's important. You're going to need money to survive. Yes, cost of living is different here in Brazil, which I'll discuss in another episode. But the reality is you're not going to get paid an apples to apples salary like you would in the United States. That is a big reason why when you look at the Brazilians today and the state that Brazilian is in today, that's why a lot of folks do not have a lot of money. That's why you don't see everyone walking around with nice jewelry or nice clothes or having that nice car or living in that beautiful home. There's a very, very small percentage of individuals who can do that here. So, going back to the initial question, if you're debating, if you're on the fence on moving to another country, one of the biggest things that you're going to have to consider, that you're going to have to factor in, how am I going to provide for myself? How am I going to generate income? And that is where my response to that is, you're going to have to find a way to be your own boss, to generate your own income, whether it be online or having enough money to start something wherever you're thinking about moving, some type of storefront, even though I wouldn't recommend that. But bottom line is you're going to have to be your own boss, or you're going to have to invest into something. Simply just having the notion where, oh, I will just find work wherever I go. It's not that easy. It's going to be a long, difficult road. It's going to be a difficult mountain to climb. So those are things to consider. That's pretty much all I have right now for this episode. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like and subscribe button. It really helps. And thank you all for watching. Wolfman907 out.